We have one from Cole that asks, what was your scariest or most exciting experience while exploring? So out of all of your expeditions.
Well, I suppose it was on the deepest dive, because we were at 30,000 feet, still going down, descending, and it's this enormous bang. And so the pressure outside at 30,000 feet is about 6 tons per square inch. So say something that size at 6 tons on there. So the total pressure on that cabin, the spherical cabin we had, was enormous. And the fact is, if you had any kind of leak, you turned into red mush before you even knew it. At that kind of pressure, it's instantaneous, and your body takes a while, your brain takes a while to understand that something's happening. And this would be before your brain could even realize that you're gone. So we knew this. If something really went bad, then we wouldn't know about it. So we hear this bang. If you can hear it, you're still alive. And we wonder, well, what the hell was that? And we looked at all our gauges. They all seemed to be reading in proper range of things. Everything was in the green, if you will. So Jacques and I looked at each other and said, well, let's do it. Let's continue. So we went on down to 35,800 feet, which is our official depth. So almost 6,000 feet deeper than where we heard the noise. Then we got on the bottom, and I was able to look outside, and I could see that there was a plexiglass or acrylic window, of a curved window, say part of a cylinder that was made entirely out of acrylic. And that was a viewing area outside the hatch, the entrance hatch. That allowed us to look through that. There's a small viewport in the entrance hatch, and the entrance tube, there's a tunnel from the top of the bathyscaphe down to the cabin, because the cabin itself on the surface of the ocean is 18 feet below the surface. So to get in and out of there, you have to do it in the dry. So from the very top of it, you got this kind of ladder and a tube that goes down through the balloon, the float of the bathyscaphe, and you can get into the cabin and shut the door. So during the dive, that tube is filled with water. You don't need it. It's not a pressure boundary, and you pay a lot of big penalty for weight, because the bathyscaphe is basically an underwater balloon. It's a flying machine, and you've got a balloon and a cabin beneath it, just like you do up in the air. So I'm looking through that little window in the hatch and through the acrylic cylinder, the window back there at the back of the tube, and I could see that excuse me, that window had a big crack in it. And what happened, that acrylic plastic flows. That's why our window viewports were not glass. Glass is rigid. And how do you cut glass for picture frame? You score it, don't you? You got these glass cutters, and what you're doing is scratching in an organized way, and then you just tap it, and it breaks along that stress line. That ain't a great idea for windows. So an acrylic plastic is, you could take a knife and go like this on the window. You might not be able to see too well, but it's not going to compromise its strength. So this acrylic window, this plastic window, a section of a cylinder, was held into the back of the entrance tube by a metal frame, bolts all around it. What they forgot to do when they put the bolts through the frame to hold the window in place is to elongate the bolt holes. So when that plastic began to flow on, because remember, you got that much, well, at that time, 6 tons per square inch on 2 sides of it. If you take a rectangular square of, say, modeling clay, and you make a little rectangular square, put it between your hands and you push, where does it go? It squirts out the edges, right? And it's the same thing here. It's plastic, it's moving. And so it stored up a lot of energy because it couldn't move. And if I bang, it relieved the stress, if you will, by cracking. Okay, now we have a problem when we get back to the surface, because when we get back to the surface, we had high pressure air on board, and we could turn on a valve from the inside, and you could blow the water out of the entrance tube so you could let yourself out. After the water went past the viewport in the hatch, the entrance tube in the entrance hatch, then you could turn the air off and open the hatch and go topside. And but if that crack just let more water come in, we couldn't get out of the cabin, and we'd have to stay inside there for a couple of days because we're 200 miles at sea, and the Trieste can only be towed at about 5 miles an hour. And all we had were candy bars. Of course, Jacques Picard being Swiss, he had Nestle's, and I had Hershey bars being American. And that was our food supply. So that was kind of a grim prospect. As it turns out, when we blew the air down in the tube very gently, not to stress that window, we found that it held. We opened the hatch, got out, and then shut the hatch behind us as we went topside in case the window failed, and climbed up the ladder, and we were free men. So that's probably the scariest thing. A lot of people ask you, well, were you scared? And I say no, because when you're frightened or scared, you lose your acuity in any situation. You can't act. You get paralyzed by fear. You've heard the saying. So you have to be well trained. That's and like a test pilot in an airplane. That's what we were. We did lots of dives. We understood the thing. We know how to work it. So the only thing we were prepared for, you're on your game, you're very alert, was the unknown. But we tried to reduce all the unknowns as much as possible through our dive testing program. So whatever is left over, things we just didn't know about, we could deal with them promptly if something happened. So we were never scared or frightened. If we were, we didn't belong there.